Hey everybody, welcome to the FareCompare podcast. My name is Rick Zini. I'm the co-founder and CEO of FareCompare.com. In this video podcast, episode number 34, we're going to be chatting about a handful of news topics, including a few questions you should ask before you fly. We'll talk with our editor on the site with these things as well. We'll also get into a little bit of the summer airfare forecast. I know everybody's out there probably shopping at least for June, July travel coming up as kids get out of school. Definitely some cheaper cities around the country. We're going to chat a little bit quickly about one of the new events in our Adventurous app, and also it's on the website as well. We'll talk a little bit about that, and then we'll also take a question from one of our customers. And let me introduce our editor from the site at FareCompare.com from California today, Ann McDermott. Hey, Ann.
Hey, Rick. I just want to say that the customer who's asking the question starts out by saying, I know this is a dumb question, and I just want to say, and I'm sure you'll agree, there are no dumb questions when it comes to travel. So,
yeah, I don't. I mean, travel can be extremely complicated, especially since everybody's sort of been turned into their own travel agent. So never a bad question, to be honest, and hopefully we can help them out. I know that there was some other questions that several people had sort of asked historically, and we put out a column there asking about these, talking about these questions. Starting off with things like, which airline will give me the cheapest flight? I get that question all the time, and the funny thing is that there's only 4 airlines that control 80% of traffic in the U.S., so it's got to be one of the 4, right? But the real answer to that question is it depends. I hate giving it depends as an answer, right. But for the most part, everything is date dependent, route dependent, what convenience you're looking for. At any given moment, any of the airlines could have the quote-unquote cheapest flight. So historically, Southwest has been known as the low-fare airline. I think they are more like a legacy airline than they are a low-fare airline. And all the airlines have to match each other. Just think of it this way. If you're $1 more than your competitor, you're on page 30 of shopping results.
Well, I remember you did a column on this. I think it was for USA Today or maybe ABC. But in any event, you showed a bunch of a series of flights and who had the cheapest. And it was a real shock in some cases. I mean, you would think that right. Spirit would often have the cheapest price. I remember this one example where American had a cheaper fare than Spirit. So you never know. So that's why you've got to compare.
Yeah, there's no doubt that I wish there was one. We're doing some studies on stuff to say, well, who has the most? I mean, it's so arbitrary sometimes. If I pick these particular cities, how do you compare apples to apples? So basically, it's it's about shopping and comparison shopping, and you will find a deal, especially if you sign up for alerts and a variety of other things. There are deals out there. I can find them. You name a route, and we can find a deal. So hopefully, we'll bring that so that you'll be easy for everybody to find. Now, I get this other question all the time, which is, will my flight be the answer to that question is, yeah, it's fairly likely, but 1 in 5 of us, for example, during the wintertime, busy wintertime season, are going to be delayed and canceled. There's certain habitually late airlines, and there's certain airlines that are habitually on time for a variety of reasons. Like Hawaiian Airlines tends to have the best on-time arrival. Well, they've got the best weather.
Yeah.
They don't have to deal with tornadoes and thunderstorms and heavy snow and a variety of other things. So, on the flip side of that, there's companies out there that specialize in letting you know exactly what their on-time arrival. DOT actually requires every airline to have their on-time arrival statistics when you go to check out, so you'll know what that particular flight's average on-time rate is. If you look at the statistics overall, what you'll find is that over the last 3 or 4 years, airlines have gotten better at their on-time arrival and departure statistics. Now, sometimes they pad these things out. They've done that in the past, at least for length of time. I saw Wall Street Journal article, I guess, comparing to somebody that actually had a booklet of OAG flight schedules from 1996 and said somehow it takes you an extra hour to get to New York than it did in 1996.
Yeah.
So some of these you have to sort of take with a grain of salt. But in general, we have over 10% fewer flights than we had before the Great Recession and the fuel crisis in 2008, 2009 for the recession. And then, so that's helped. We don't have a new air traffic control system that's satellite-based. It's all ground radar-based. We've been trying to get one for Ann. I don't know. I've been talking about it for, almost a decade now.
I know.
It's pretty scary. We have better technology in our iPhones than we do in aircraft in some cases, unfortunately. But that doesn't, because of the lack of capacity that's out there, it's definitely made on-time arrivals better on many airlines. And that's what people really want. If they want to leave and arrive on time, and if they do check a bag, and most people don't, and that leads us to question number 3, they'd like it to be there. So then the question is, will my bag get lost? And the answer is not very often, but I personally have had my bag, and I don't check a bag. I do check golf bags because I'm required to. If I could carry it into the cabin, I would. They just lost my golf bag last year, and then they dragged one apparently through the Atlantic Ocean on my way. They threw it out the back and drug it on a long rope at 33,000 feet. The statistics are getting better in this area as well. I mean, if you look at the statistics over the last 5 years, the mishandled, quote-unquote, mishandled baggage rate has dropped.
Well, I have lost a bag, which is why I turned to a carry-on person. It doesn't happen often, and bags that do get lost are rarely lost for good. But, when it's your bag, it's a pain. So just know that they're doing better. They sure are. Probably because more people are doing the carry-ons, but
of course, yeah, no, it's sort of it's self-fulfilling, right? If you're carrying everything on, and I'm about to head out this summer to Europe, we'll be doing carry-on. So, not because the bags are expensive. It's you get a free bag when you fly internationally. It's just the convenience. We happen to be going to 3 or 4 different destinations. If you're carrying around the steamer trunk, it makes it very difficult to get around.
Yeah. Some people have asked also what airlines are the nicest, and boy, that is so subjective. I think
it is, but clearly there's the ones that always sort of break the bank. The Singapore Airlines of the world, the Emirates of the world. I think here, if you were to ask people domestic U.S., if you would have looked 3 or 4 years ago, Virgin America would have been very high on the list. Airlines have been sort of upgrading all their cabins more recently, and they've been upgrading their airport experience. So I think they've caught up a little bit with the Virgin America experience. But every airline, it depends on your particular city, may or may not be good in that particular city.
Well, and if they're not good, come and see our story about this, because we have a link on where you can go to file a complaint, and which will be, I'm sure, very helpful.
Yeah, it's not that easy to find, by the way, to file a complaint with the Department of Transportation.
No, it's not.
And the last question we get quite a bit is flying with pets. As far as flying with pets, I don't actually have a pet, but I've written on this subject extensively. A lot of people say that you probably shouldn't do it at all, but for the most part, small ones, if you get them in the cabin, the flight's not too long, you're probably okay. But if you're having to actually put your pet in cargo, you are, literally, you're potentially taking your pet's your life in your hands there.
Well, I know a lot of people that do it, and I do have a dog. And for fewer and fewer, or rather, I should say, more and more airlines will not take pets in cargo anymore
because of the issues they've had in the past.
Yeah, so you better have a small pet so it can fly in the cabin. But it has never occurred to me to fly my dog anywhere. The dog is happy at home, and I think that's just swell.
I take that back. I do have a pet. We have a few goldfish, Wallace and Gromit, and they do make it over to the neighbor's house when we do take a lengthy trip. So, I haven't yet seen deemed it a potentially to carry it on the plane yet. So, but yeah, no, I agree. This is one of those things where a lot of people do. I know, pets are just like children for a lot of people, and you just have to make that decision. The statistics aren't terrible for flying with pets, but there's been issues in the past, so just take that under advisement.
Okay, summer airfare. What is the forecast?
Yeah, I've been watching airfare for the last 3 or 4 months coming in, and we did a variety of studies. We looked at the Caribbean with the Southwest effect. We talked about that in one of the previous podcasts. That's looking good. Prices are down because of that. Looking across the country, unfortunately, and there's sort of the have and the have-not cities and the have and the have-not passengers. So business passengers are going to save some money because those $900 and $1,000 tickets are dropping slightly. Prices are not going up at all. In fact, the base prices are relatively flat year over year, so you're not going to pay much more. On certain routes and certain days, there's definitely cheaper prices, Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday departures. There's some cities out there that are cheaper. Dallas has been one. I've been lucky to be in a city where it's been cheap for a variety of reasons. You got Chicago, New York, D.C., Seattle, Denver, across the country that have decent competition. But outside of those major cities, prices aren't going to be much cheaper than you saw the year before. Although, and I see all the analyst reports for airlines from all the variety of investment houses. Airlines are struggling to hit some of their numbers because they've been reaping this huge windfall in fuel savings, which they haven't really had to pass on to consumers because all the empty middle seats are full. But you can be rest assured that every seat this summer is going to be full, and the airlines are going to be and if you haven't bought your ticket yet, you need to buy that ticket as well. So definitely fly on the cheaper days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday. Start shopping right now if you aren't already for the summer, and look for connecting flights if you're seeing crazy high prices on nonstops, and you'll save some money.
And as you point out, prices are, at least, they're going to be relatively flat this year for most of us. So it's better than going up.
Yeah, business travelers are going to see $10, $15, $20 break on some of those expensive tickets. Some leisure travelers on some routes are going to definitely be cheaper. Some are going to be more expensive. If you live in a smaller city or a regional city or a mid-sized city that lost some of its competition in the last 6 or 7 years, you're not going to see much of a break.
Okay, we've got a question from the customer, and this is Marcy from East Orange, New Jersey, and she's the one who is worried that her question sounds dumb. It's not. She says, how do I know when my passport is sufficient for travel and when I would need a travel visa of some sort? She says everybody is telling her different things, and she is going to Brazil in a couple of months and then Spain at the end of the year, and she wants to know what is needed.
Sure, yeah. I have a funny passport story. Just yesterday, my daughter's passport came in. She's all excited now because her previous passport was when she was 4 years old, and she's now 15.
I hope she got an updated picture.
It has her 4-year-old, or well, maybe it's 6-year-old. I can't remember, but it's a pretty young picture. She's 15 now and 5'9". So it's always funny to watch. They open up the passport and go, that's not you. And so anyway, we got a new passport. The reason we got a new passport is we're going to be going to Europe later this year, and hers expired in sort of a 6-month window. So you got to be careful. Some countries will not let you in depending on when your passport is likely to expire. So that's all. That information is held in a very good website. Actually, I have to say, the Department of State has a very good website talking about each particular country and their needs. I believe it's travel.state.gov.
Travel.state.gov. It's great, yeah.
Yeah, and so they have a section on every country, what the visa requirements are. Specifically to Brazil, it sounds like in a couple of months, that sounds like a Olympics trip.
Yeah.
So not much in the way of, you'll have to go check out if there's any visa requirements there. I haven't been there in 4 or 5 years, and I don't recall Actually, I did have to
Oh,
get a visa last time. I do recall when I went to Brazil. Now, I don't know if that's the case because they're having the Olympics. They're going to require a visa of some sort, but I believe the last time I went there, it required a visa. Spain, certainly you don't. There's a
yeah.
reciprocal EU, and I'm actually heading to Italy later this summer. I don't need a visa, but I'm checking that website all the time. There's no way I can keep every country's visa requirements in my head. They also have good information about hotspots, where you may or may not want to go, for example. So really good resource for information, and they do
Yeah.
update it quite frequently.
And it's, as you mentioned, it's loaded with practical information, including like local laws that you might not be aware of, which could be important if you're doing a rental car, and just all kinds of great information. It's a fun read too. So
Yeah, so there's the stuff that people should be concerned about and interested that they have on there, like what do I do if I have a medical emergency? What do I do if I have to
yeah.
do this all the time? I'm taking one of my daughter's friends. What kind of power of attorney do you need while you're over there? All that information is contained there on the website. It's a really good resource.
Okay, let's talk Eventurist, and
Yeah, sure.
we like to highlight some of the great cities and great activities they have. And the Eventurist event of the week this time is the Detroit fireworks.
Yeah, I noticed that page too. Yeah, you can check that out on our native app on the App Store and for iOS and on Google Play for Android devices. And I have never been to Detroit during fireworks. I know Joshua, one of one of our folks here at FareCompare, actually wrote this particular story up. I'm looking at the photos, and they're pretty spectacular.
And it's actually sort of a joint venture between Detroit and Windsor. It takes place on both sides of the Detroit River. And it is just a fun thing. It sort of celebrates the 4th of July as well as Canada Day, which is July 1. And it's a multi-day event. It has all kinds of spectacular stuff, including live music and art, and there's all kinds of shopping and rooftop parties and contests, and it goes on and on and on, and it just sounds like a whole lot of fun, really. And it also, the fireworks apparently are just gorgeous.
Yeah, and I see some of the actual reflections over the river. Those are anytime you see fireworks over water, it's one of those
Yeah.
special things that you just have to do. And that time of year is a perfect time to go to Detroit because it's a lot cooler than it is here in Texas. Trust me on that. I have a lot of friends that go to Michigan during that time of year. Some of them actually live in the Dallas area and came originally from Michigan. So that time of the year, if you're trying to get away from the oppressive heat of some of the southern states, is pretty fun to do as well.
And I just want to say, Adventurous is such a great app for so many reasons, not the least of which is free, but that's nothing compared to what you can get there. But even if you really don't feel like traveling, get Adventurous because you would just love the gorgeous pictures.
No, it's really one of the best things. I love firing it up every day. It's really updated. We have new events. We're updating events for previous years, making sure we have all the information ready for you, making it easy for you to shop for airfare during those dates, sign up for alerts. So check that out. And also, as far as the podcast is concerned, you can catch us on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud. Be sure this is episode 34, and you don't want to miss episode number 35. So check us out, and we'll talk more about what's hot in the news and answer some questions, and hopefully find you a place to go on one of your bucket list trips in the near future.
Thanks, Rick.
Thanks, Ann.